LeBron James made his return to the Lakers when it looked like there was no way he would be back in time for either game against the Bulls. Then as we got closer to the game, he went from doubtful to questionable to a game time decision to then LeBron is going to be available. Didn't matter though because the Bulls handed the Lakers that L and really won this game pretty handily in controlling the lead throughout. Yes, there were a lot of moments where the Lakers went on some big runs where you felt like the game was never really out of reach. Bulls would go up 20 and then the Lakers would cut the lead down to 8, which for Bulls fans has you nervous considering how many big leads the Bulls have blown late in games throughout the season. But honestly, the Bulls have actually been handling themselves well when putting up big leads most recently. Yeah, they make you sweat a little when they allow a team to go on a quick 10-0 run in a matter of like 2 minutes, but we haven't seen these massive collapses like we saw before the All-Star break. And unlike a lot of games we've seen lately, the Bulls played very well in the third quarter, really solidifying that lead and responding well after that ridiculous garbage ejection on Nikola Vucevic. And I actually want to start there because I tweeted the other day just how bad the officiating has been throughout the season and across the league. I'm not just talking about the Bulls because it's been really terrible throughout the NBA. And today, seeing Vucevic get thrown out in the manner that he did just absolutely made my blood boil. Like, it's getting to the point where these refs are on an absolute power trip, so sensitive and triggered that they're asserting their authority and abusing their power as a game official to send a message to players. And look, don't get me wrong, Vucevic committed that foul, and he shouldn't have reacted the way that he did. But 2 quick technicals like that, and throwing him out so abruptly, and we're talking about a crucial game here for both teams. So let the refs make that kind of decision to potentially affect the outcome of the game is inexcusable. I don't know what the league needs to do, but over the offseason there needs to be some better training of these officials, holding them more accountable for blatantly egregious calls or abusing their power in a game, fining them like they do the players. Otherwise, if they're not going to be held accountable or reprimanded in some way, they're not going to change. Like, the quality of officiating isn't going to change. Why would it? If in your day job, you keep performing poorly, make bad decisions, but there weren't any consequences or a risk of getting fired, you would just keep doing on what you're doing. Why would you change anything? Anyway, Vucevic did acknowledge he's got to be smarter than to not get worked up there and just leave your team without their starting center, not this late in the season and when every game is so critical, but thank God Andre Drummond decided to have one of his good games. I mean, I kid because one thing I like about Drummond is he always stays ready, comes out a little flat sometimes and makes bad mistakes occasionally, but no, he's actually come up big for the Bulls when they've needed him. And with Vucevic being out, trying to show up his former team, yes, the Lakers did have Drummond for a half season after he was bought out by the Cavs a few years back. He knew this was his time to shine. With Vucevic getting ejected right before halftime, came in and was solid for the Bulls. Drummond, 12 points, 8 rebounds in 18 minutes and was a plus 20 on the night. I think most of us felt that once Vucevic was tossed and the Lakers made that mini run at the end of the second quarter that it was going to be a tall order for the Bulls to win this one when going into halftime. The Lakers had all the momentum on their side with Vucevic getting ejected and finishing off the half on a run, but then the third quarter, again, a quarter the Bulls have typically played poorly in. They come out on a mission, talking about fighting through adversity. You lose one of your better players, you know it's a game you have to win. They were locked in and focused as if Vucevic getting ejected was that extra fuel to the fire that they needed. They didn't close out the quarter that well considering they were up by as many as 21, I believe, and the Lakers brought it down within 10 points at one point. Something similar in the fourth quarter as well when the Bulls came out on fire, particularly DeMar DeRozan, who hit those back-to-back threes to put the Bulls up 20, but then as the final minutes started winding down, the Lakers kept hanging around, keeping it between 8 and 10 points around there for a period in the fourth quarter until Patrick Beverley hit that dagger of a floater over LeBron and hit him with the too small, which capped off the night perfectly. As we all know, this one was a little personal for Patrick Beverley after the Lakers traded him. He said his goal was to eliminate them from the playoffs, fitting and to have him cap it off with that dagger. You know, Billy Donovan said in his post-game press conference that what he's really liked seeing from the guys that we weren't seeing before is their ability to be resilient in these moments, where a team goes on a run to close the gap in a big lead, and rather than faltering and letting the opposing team take over and win the game, figuring out ways to keep their cool and playing smart to maintain the lead and close out the game. You've really seen that ever since the All-Star break. I think with the exception of that game against the Kings where the Bulls were up 16 in the first half and then they lost at the buzzer, but giving up a 16-point lead in the first half isn't as bad as giving up a 23-plus lead in the third quarter, which the Bulls have done this season. Anyway, Zach Lavine did his thing tonight, taking over in LA, super efficient, shooting 13 for 19, 32 points, only 2 turnovers. Zach is really starting to look laser focused on going into the postseason, which is the perfect time to do it. Yeah, it would have been nice to see this kind of Zach all season long instead of just post All-Star break with only a handful of games left to go, but The way he's playing right now, he can't be stopped. It's also just his finishing at the rim, attacking the basket, maneuvering in and out of traffic to get whatever he wants. Makes it look so easy, and you can see on the Lakers' faces after he would come in and score, just kind of looking at each other in frustration, not having a clue what to do to stop this guy and that quick first step of his to the basket. Lakers' help defense sucks though, so that helps. DeRozan continues to elevate his playmaking. I've said it before, but I really like seeing him taking notice that, hey, Zach is playing at a very high level. I don't need to try and take over every possession. I don't need to just keep the ball in my hands and get to my spot on the floor. I can be that facilitator that I was back in San Antonio. And tonight, another 10 assist game for DeMar to go along with 17 points and 6 rebounds, 7 for 13 shooting. He was pretty quiet in the first half as well, with Zach doing the bulk of the scoring. So it was great to see him come out strong in the second half when the Bulls needed some added offense. Alex Caruso also had himself a nice game back in LA. Shot the ball well, played great defense, needing to guard LeBron on a lot of possessions, which is never going to be easy with that massive size difference. And then Patrick Beverley had a solid game as well in his return to LA, putting in 10 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists. Off the bench, like I said, big game from Drummond, but also Coby White. Wasn't as consistent with his shooting, like he was really feeling it in the first half, and then he really struggled to find his stroke in the second. But 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists, 0 turnovers, and was a plus 19 on the night. 5 for 17 shooting, like I said, not the best, but what's been impressive to me about Coby are the other things he's doing to impact the game, which was not something you were seeing before from Coby White in prior seasons. But actually, you know, the Bulls did a great job at taking care of the ball across the board. Only turned the ball over 9 times, and 6 of those came in the second half. They shot it from downtown on a solid clip, 14 for 31, 54% from the field overall, 32 assists. They out-rebounded the Lakers. They dominated on points off turnovers because the Bulls did an excellent job at forcing turnovers. Lakers had 18 in total. Just a great all-around game that was controlled by the Bulls throughout. And guess what? The Bulls are now only 2 games below 500. Been a while since we've been able to say that. And with the Hawks losing, both the Bulls and the Raptors are now only a half game back of the 8th spot. Bulls are making ground, and they're figuring things out at the right time with just a few games left to go in the season. And then they're right back at it tomorrow night, going up against the Clippers in the same arena. Until then, guys, as always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.